Set?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, good evening and welcome to the September 11th, 2025 meeting of San Diego Community Powers Community Advisory Committee. My name is David Harris and I represent the city of La Mesa. As chair, I welcome members of the public, San Diego Community Powers staff, and committee members joining us in person and online today. Thank you to Community Power staff for making this in-person meeting possible and the Port of San Diego for accommodating us here today. I will now call the meeting to order. Our clerk of the board, Maricela Hernandez, will now call the roll.
Committee member Stefani. Committee member Hammond. Committee member Hoyt.
Present.
Committee member Anderson.
Anderson.
Yes, sir.
Present.
Committee member Sumner.
Present.
Committee member Castaneda. Committee member Emerson.
Here.
Committee member Pasalakis. Here. Secretary Pike. Vice Chair Montero Adams.
Here.
And Chair Harris.
Here. Wonderful. Okay. Well, let's all stand and I'll bring this to Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge that the Kumeyaay Nation are the original inhabitants of the land now known as San Diego, where this meeting is taking place today. We carry their legacy forward, ensuring that their traditions continue to thrive with gratitude and strength, and we stand with the Kumeyaay Nation, connected to our past and committed to a more just, sustainable, and resilient future for all. Okay, a quorum is present. First up on the agenda is special presentations and introductions. We would like to give a warm welcome to the following staff members joining Community Power here today. Community Outreach Representatives Aoife Maxwell and Bianca Veron, Nadeem Bahu and Angad Kapoor. And I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to address our group. So maybe starting with Aoife. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and
Nice to meet everyone. My name's Aoife Maxwell. I'm the community outreach representative on the team, one of two. A little bit about myself is that I'm originally from Ireland. I moved to the US 4 years ago. And then this is my second year here in San Diego. And I love all of San Diego, all the different communities and everything. Thank you.
My name's Bianca. I was born and raised here in Carlsbad, and I'm the second community outreach representative with San Diego Community Power. And I just graduated from UC Santa Barbara this past June with environmental studies degree. So that's a little bit about me.
Hope everyone's having a great day. It's very nice to meet you all. My name is Nadeem. I've been working so far. It's been 3 months at SCCP, and I'm working as a data analyst. Really, anything data related, data requests or dashboards, anything in that sort. That's kind of my field for the most part. I worked at SoCalGas before, and then Calpine Energy Solutions as well. Currently also pursuing data science degree and part-time for grad school. And I'm very excited to be here, and it's an honor to meet you all.
thank you. Welcome.
So, hi everyone, my name is Angad Kapoor. I'm a procurement analyst working with the energy procurement team. I'm from India, but I moved to San Diego approximately 4 years back. Previously, I did my master's from UCSD and I was working with the university, and I've been here for roughly a month now. And it's been great learning and working with all the wonderful people at Community Power, and it's good to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, that concludes the special presentations for today. Are there any items on the agenda that you would run?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we will now take up a non-agenda public comment. Written public comments submitted before the committee meeting are emailed to all the CAC members prior to the committee meeting and will be posted on the beginning of. Audie, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
These days. On consent calendar, so the consent calendar approved as a package without discussion unless a CAC member or a member of the public requests that an item be removed for separate discussion and action. The CAC received staff reports for all items on the consent agenda, and staff provided an opportunity for questions and comments during briefings prior to this meeting. Today's consent agenda includes the approval of the August 14, 2025 CAC meeting minutes, an update on marketing, public relations, and local government affairs, an update on customer operations, update on programs, and an update on power services, and finally, an update on regulatory and legislative affairs. Marty, do we have any public comment on any of these items?
We do not.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to remove any item from the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing no objections or requests for removal, I will now turn it over to the committee members for a motion to approve the consent.
Consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a motion by Mr. Hoyt and a second by Mr. Sumner. Clerk, please call the vote.
Committee member Stefani.
Aye.
Committee member Hammond.
Aye.
Committee member Hoyt.
Aye.
Committee member Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Committee member Sumner.
Aye.
Committee member Emerson.
Aye.
Committee member Vasilakis.
Aye.
Vice Chair Romero Adams.
Aye.
And Chair Harris.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Moving right along, let's move on to the regular agenda, starting up with item 7, the solar battery savings program relaunch. The community power programs team will provide the presentation. I kindly ask that members refrain from asking questions until the end of the presentation. We have your Colin Santucci. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. Colin Santulli. I oversee our customer programs team at Community Power. Very happy to be here presenting an update on our solar battery savings program. Do I have this? I did. All right, great. So we'll spend a few minutes talking about the pilot that we implemented last summer, which gave us a lot of lessons learned for the program that we're here to talk about relaunching. When we get into the program, we'll focus on goals, look at the incentive structure, incentive levels, and then talk about some of the differences on how we're operating batteries and eligibility criteria for those batteries. Right, so those of you who haven't been with us for a while, this solar battery savings program has been with us really in concept for almost 2 years now. When the agency transitioned along with the rest of the state from NEM to NBT, our board made a commitment to create a program to support the local solar industry as they transition along with that pretty monumental shift in the market. And we created that pilot, and we're very happy with the results that we found last summer. We launched the pilot in June of last year. The funds were expended by November. We had roughly almost $11 million. That we have almost 1,600 customers participated, and that would be about 2,200 batteries in total. The average incentive was $6,900. We had, as we do with the program I'll talk about, we had a varying incentive for market rate customers and community concern and care fair customers. So the incentive was fairly split, but the average was just under $7,000. I mentioned supporting industry, and we definitely found that in the pilot. We had over 50 contractors who were approved in the program, and a big focus on making sure we got a variety of contractors, and we found that in the pilot. 37% registered DBE, and a fair amount of considered small businesses as well. Almost 40%, or more than 40% rather, had less than 10 staff. We had some big, kind of well-known names, of course, in the program. A lot of mom and pop contractors who and heard from personally, really this program made a difference in their business last summer when they were going through that shift. We were proud of it. The program to be able to support our customers. We also got some recognition that we're proud of them by the US DOE, highlighting the program in their annual virtual power plant update, specifically referencing how the focus on supporting customers who typically don't participate in solar and storage industry specifically. And then we're also going to be featured in an upcoming Peak Load Management Alliance conference, where we're going to be on a panel alongside other CCAs, talking about how CCAs work together to kind of stand on each other's shoulders for programs like this. So that pilot, like I said, wrapped up in November of 2024. Over the last 9 months, we've had a number of key milestones that kind of led us to the program where we are today. You all are aware, our board adopted our strategic plan goals, biannual strategic planning goals for the agency. For our department, one of those was to put into place a 150 megawatt virtual power plant by 2035, and it specifically identified the expansion of solar battery savings program. We got that direction from our board in March, and then in June, during the annual budget season or budget approval, the board appropriated for this current fiscal year $18.8 million for solar battery savings specifically. They also approved, as you know, our investment plan, our 5-year investment plan, CIP, or the capital investment plan. And in that investment plan, there was a 5-year line item for solar battery savings with an estimated project cost of $55 billion. So we got that direction at the strategic level, and we've gotten that direction from the board from a monetary commitment. And with that, we were kind of off and running on the program design, engaging with contractors, engaging with industry, talking to other CCAs and other utilities to kind of make sure we're putting together the program that gets the best ideas for our country. So the new program, the goals are very similar to the goals that we had outlined for the pilot. I'll highlight one main difference is that we are emphasizing new systems, where for the pilot, we didn't have any differentiation between whether you were adding a battery to an existing system or whether you were installing a new solar storage system. We did that intentionally for the pilot because we knew there was going to be a lot of contractors who were going to go back to their existing solar customers and try to add on this battery. We want to grow the pie of rooftop solar customers and the benefit in our territory and the benefits that it brings to be a solar storage customer. So as a result, we have a relatively higher incentive for new systems. We also, kind of a minor difference in the goals, we did a slight differentiation between communities of concern and Care Fair customers for that 50% target. That 50% target that we have, which is directing half of our program funding into those communities, we almost met that target last year. We thought it'd be good to, instead of having it just be overarching communities of concern, kind of go down one level deeper and see if we can get more Care Fair customers into the program. And then the rest of the program goals is, as they were, to support the grid, help us reduce peak demand, continue to build relationships with our customers and the solar industry here, deliver bill savings. And then we are really focused on non-community power funding, especially for those kind of non-market rate customers, community concern, and Care Share customers. There continue to be funding opportunities out there for solar and solar and storage. The SCHIP funding, I think, has just been extended, but we do expect more funding like that to continue to pop up as we're designing the program to be able to leverage other funding as well for customers when it makes sense. All right. I mentioned that we had that 5-year commitment in the investment plan. We have set up, so looking at that five-year program roughly, we have 90 megawatt hour overall program targets. We have proposed, or we're employing a program design that allows us to step down the incentive over time. This is fairly common in incentive programs, utility incentive programs, CSI, SCHIP, they've all used this type of step down. It's intended to kind of phase out the public support for the new technology as the market grows and as presumably as costs come down. This is illustrative. We're not required to reduce the incentive over time. Obviously, the budget implications, we held the incentive constant, but we kind of build in the specific milestones to reevaluate the program and reevaluate program design. And then it's a real clear signal to the industry that the incentive is not going to go away. We've been on a 9-month gap between the program and the pilot. It allows us to do that kind of a reevaluation without having the program fully stop, but allows us the ability to reduce incentives. We got a lot of feedback that the incentive rates we set for the pilot were generous and were helpful to keep the industry going. We reduced the incentives largely across the categories. I'll talk about that in a second. And we know we expect to have to do that again. But being able to signal to industry that those changes are coming far in advance is really important. We heard that time and time again when we were doing our engagement. Okay, so the incentive levels, I mentioned this, I may have covered almost all of this already. The incentive levels, we have the market rate and non-market rate. The difference from last year is that the line right there where it says new systems versus existing systems, we didn't differentiate that in the pilot again. So you can see there's a relatively higher incentives for new solar and storage systems across both market rate and non-market rate customers. And then we have relatively higher incentives for existing systems and new systems for non-market rate customers compared to market rate customers. We still have a performance incentive. So as the participants they're required to discharge their 50% of their battery on a daily basis, we compensate them for that power that they provide back to the grid at 10 cents per kWh. That hasn't changed. That 10 cents per kWh was that's the number that came from our power services department, and that may be something that we'll reevaluate at when we hit one of those milestones. But right now, that's driven by them. A couple differences for the program operations and specifically equipment eligibility. We have tried to simplify these program parameters from the pilot. We gave customers, or I should say participants, a lot of options in the pilot. They could choose weekday dispatches or weekday and weekends. They can enroll 50% or 60 or 70. And we determined that value of getting that slight extra flexibility is adding a lot more burden on the contractors to enroll them properly, on us to actually get the batteries enrolled on our end and process the application. So we've simplified that. It's just a weekday dispatch, 5 days a week, obviously, and we're limiting it to 50% of the battery. So there's no option to enroll more than 50%. For the pilot, we had a 2-hour dispatch. We've expanded that to a 4-hour window, but we built into the program manual the ability to be flexible in the future. So anywhere within that peak period, 1 to 5, when an applicant, the program, they recognize that it could be anywhere in that between 1 and 5 hours, anywhere in that on-peak window that they're agreeing to provide that 50%. And that obviously will be informed by, again, the needs of the grid and the needs, again, in close concert with our power services department. We still have the unenrollment clawback, where we're absolutely making a commitment to our customers and they're committing back to us to provide that resource. We're depending on that resource. And when we go to the scale that we're expecting, we'll eventually be an 85 megawatt resource that when you're looking at as a 1-hour flexible load. That's a big resource. We need to be sure that it's going to be there. And so we do have that clawback if we need to, that if they don't deliver that for that 5-year period, that we have the right to claw back a portion of that incentive if need be. And then lastly, we don't have anything in the near term in the works for active events, but we do envision in the future we want to have the flexibility to include this resource for active events. And so in the enrollment, we have hand raisers, so we kind of know which participants are willing to participate in active events, and those are just you'll have seen like PSPS or other events where there's extreme need by the grid. We want to be able to look at this resource, not just from a daily dispatch, but if we can get it all worked out with our DERMS provider and our power services, be able to call this active events. And I should mention, as far as changing in the equipment eligibility, I mentioned our DERMS provider. That's our Distributed Energy Resources Management System. This effectively, you've heard some of my colleagues talk about this before. It effectively is an umbrella software that allows us to help manage the devices of our customers who are in our programs, help manage those devices in a way that benefits the grid and benefits the customers in the best possible way. And it does it so in a very choreographed way, as opposed to kind of one-off based on OEMs or based on technologies. So with the desire for us to have that integrated kind of sophisticated approach, all the batteries that are eligible for the program, those batteries have to be able to work with our DERMS provider, which is a company called Virtual Peaker. And they're Virtual Peakers, one of the major DERMS companies in the country. And so we expect to have a good variety of batteries in the program once we launch. I think I'll jump to the next steps before I open to questions. We are set for a public launch on September 30th. We're going to have a press event, and it'll be led by our public affairs team. We've been in the middle of contractor trainings. So these are mandatory trainings. Anyone who's in the program has to, in addition to submitting an enrollment form and providing the required documentation, they have to join us for mandatory training and sit with us to learn about the program. Making sure that contractors are speaking about the program appropriately, that applicants know or participants know that it's a 50% requirement. It's really important to us. And so we kind of really hit that home through these mandatory trainings. We've done 2 so far. We've had roughly 60 contractors participate. We have 2 more next week planned. We have a whole lot of activity planned in our customer engagement for this program. The pilot, I didn't cover this part, but our pilot was primarily driven by contractors. So we did almost no promotion ourselves. And that was really part of the design, to see what kind of interest the program could gather without doing a big customer engagement push from us. We intend to, this time around, really ramp that up. You can see customer workshops on here. We're going to be hosting specifically community power-led workshops with customers to help teach them not just about the program, but benefits of solar and storage. Kind of really having that one-on-one experience with them. Some people's load profiles, it doesn't make sense to get solar and a battery. Some it does. It really does depend on each use case. And for the pilot, we were really wanting the contractors to do all that education. As we know, we're going to be doing this program for several years. We're going to also take a part in that and hopefully work with some trusted voices in the community, specifically targeting some of the communities that didn't have as high of participation as we would have liked during the pilot, National City and Trail Beach specifically. So that the number of activities coming up, and I'm sure we'll be in front of you again, probably in Q1, and I'll probably be joined by Jill Monroe or someone from her team who are kind of lead on all the marketing communications for the program. I think that will be it for me. I'm available for questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate this presentation a lot. One, I just wanted to thank you for increasing the marketing from SDCP. I'm very curious as to like if the contractors would pull in a certain demographic or a certain building typology, just even references for more likely uptake. So I think that'll be helpful in just finding other segments. Okay. And second, actually, the question that I have is like, how has this program been received by the other CCAs? Like, are they emulating? Are they like trying to develop their own, or?
Yeah, we just had a call today with the CCA in Northern California, and I think it's safe to say that they're looking to us to learn how to set a program up like this. I mentioned the panel that we're going to be on. There are other programs that have elements of what we do, but no other program brings together this idea of providing a high upfront incentive that kind of commits the customer for many years, and then building that commitment into our load forecast and providing that future RA, our foregone RA clause. That's a very unique element of our program, and so we've got a lot of interest from other CCAs on how it is working out.
I love that innovation. I do wonder if this works because other jurisdictions don't have the same RA constraints, but yeah, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and I should say, I failed to mention Emily Fisher, who is the senior manager who developed the pilot She's very much still part of the team. She's taken a well-deserved break. She'll be back here shortly, overseeing the program. We have several new team members, so she'll be back. So that innovation that you're talking about, she gets that kudos for sure. Yeah.
You seem to be providing a greater variety of battery types potentially in this program, but fewer contractors.
Okay.
We heard during our briefing that there were currently only 3 contractors. Is that correct? And if so, how are those?
I may have misspoke or might have come across incorrectly. So we had 50 contractors in the pilot. We already have in the 2 sessions we've had 60 or 70 contractors show interest. We have 2 more. I anticipate we're going to end up with the same number of contractors, if not more.
Gotcha.
For the batteries we're offering, I actually anticipate we'll probably have a smaller list, qualified product list, smaller list of batteries because of that DERMS requirement. So we, for the pilot, any battery that met the technical specs could come with us. And I think that we learned a lot, but we're really tied to when you have, I think we had 11 OEMs, 11 different battery manufacturers, and they all have their own models. All those manufacturers, they all kind of work a little bit differently. And it's a significant amount of staff time to work with them to make sure that what they're giving us is going to meet the customer's needs, meeting our needs, work with contractors. But really, the DERMS really helps us streamline and normalize that. But in that process, some manufacturers are not going to want to meet the requirements that DERMS has. So that's a long way of saying less batteries, but hopefully the same number of contractors.
Great.
Bobby, do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. More questions? Yes, Mr. Owens.
Thank you for the good presentation. You may have said this and maybe, so forgive me. Did we do any follow-up to evaluations from the 1,600 customers? Do we have any written evaluations from them?
Yeah, no written evaluation just yet. I mentioned that the final applications occurred in November. And so we had a big rush of applications over the summer. The process of getting from when you sign a contract for the battery to when you actually get it installed, it can be upwards of 6 months. So there's actually still some of those like kind of lagging batteries, contracts from the first pilot that are still getting installed now. That's all I'll say. We started getting a really good chunk of that 1,600 customer data, probably in the middle of Q1, Q2. And so we're still evaluating that data. Once we get a full year with seasonal data, obviously for any solar programs, really important. Once we get a full year, we'll come out and probably have something published. We'll bring something to you. We're able to see very real-time response or performance of the batteries partially because of our DERMS provider and the relationship we built with the manufacturers. So I can say that the batteries are performing very well. There's some batteries that are not meeting the requirements that we were expecting, and we're learning a lot through how the manufacturers are configured and working with the contractors. But we will have a written evaluation report soon. We don't right now, but we have enough data to give us the confidence to launch the program moving forward.
Thank you. I'm very interested.
Yes, Luis.
Again, thank you for the presentation. A couple of quick questions just to make sure I understood. In the step down process, you mentioned 3 different tiers. Are we currently in tier 1 or was tier 1 the pilot?
No, tier 1, we're in tier 1.
Okay, great.
Good question, sorry.
In the pilot, we were able to, I believe, bring on board 19 megawatt hours through just the pilot. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the goal for the entire program is 90 megawatt hours. Does that 19 go towards the 90 or is it 90 on top of the initial 90?
It's separate. So the program we're releasing right now, there's a slight differentiation between the megawatt hours is how we're measuring the step downs. That's how the batteries are measured in megawatt hours. When we look at a flex load resource, we're looking at a 1 hour resource. And so it's slightly less than 90. It's actually 86 megawatt. It's an 86 megawatt 1 hour resource. And so the 1 hour resource is tied to our strategic goal, which is 150 by 2055. The megawatt hours, it's kind of the very, in the pilot, we used a dollar amount. We were tracking how many dollars that we spent. We don't want to be tracking dollars, so that's why we're using this megawatt hours. We could have used number of batteries. We could use another number of other metrics, but that's that 90 megawatt hour metric. Yeah.
With the kind of step down approach, going from the highest level of incentives now and kind of trailing down, makes me think that it's the belief that there is going to be enough demand in the market to fulfill that full goal by the end of the 5 year. Obviously, the first pilot project was overwhelming success.
Yep.
We still don't have a full understanding what the market demand is going to be
Yep.
with the SDCP marketing integrated into it. Do we have any other indicators that you're using to kind of predict whether or not we should be going the opposite direction? In my head, my kind of initial thought is a small incentive now, and then stragglers provide a bigger incentive.
Yeah, I understand your question. Part of the idea of dropping it down, and just to restate, we're not required to drop the incentive. We just want to really clearly signal we're building a milestone to give us the ability to do so if we need to. We don't have any necessarily market signals other than the fact that the market has changed dramatically in the last 3 to 6 months with the changes to the federal tax credit.
Yeah.
And so we thought long and hard when the HR went through the bill and that made the changes. We thought about pausing the launch of the program until Q1. We looked at a number of different options, considering what these third-party owned systems may do or may not do to the market. And we ultimately decided that trying to predict what the market's going to do with this major change was more or less a guessing game for us. So we decided to move forward with the program, build in this flexibility so we can change it. There's nothing stopping us from increasing incentives if we decide that was what we need. Obviously, the budget implications for that, we can go to our board for that. But we've got a very clear goal from the board to create this virtual power plant, this capacity target. We think that SBS is it's going to get us halfway there. The cost of getting us halfway there, I still think is undetermined, but that 55 million, it was built on reducing incentives over time. And that's like kind of looking at SCHIP and CSI and other programs and taking a similar.
And my last question is completely counterintuitive to my last question.
Yeah.
Which is, with the fluctuations in the market and the cost of purchasing batteries, is there any belief to think that keeping the incentives similar to where they were during the pilot program is enough of an incentive to counteract the possible increase of total cost of purchasing the batteries?
Yeah, I thought I would give you some version of the same answer I just gave you.
Okay. Why not?
Yeah, why not? We spent a lot of time looking at it. We talked to a lot of folks here and elsewhere, and a lot of the solar and now solar and storage market is really regionally driven. There's some folks who've been doing this a long time who don't believe that the tax credit going away is going to do a whole lot here. In San Diego, we have so there's probably a lot to say on that, but we need to see what the program does. And if it turns out that the incentives are flying off the shelf, or that we're getting more systems, we'll be happy that we have more systems installed. We're going to reach that milestone sooner. We can reevaluate the incentive levels.
I'm sorry, I realized I had one final question.
Yeah, please.
Do you have any projections as to how quickly this year's funding will tap out?
We anticipate that this first 30 megawatt hours would last roughly 13 months. So that 18.8 million is a little bit, 18.8 million should align roughly with the 1 year mark, not quite. So, but we would get budget direction before this funding, because we're at this point, we're launching here in September. And so that's in a 12-month period. We're going to get budget direction from our board in June of 2026 to kind of refill
Best, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Appreciate the questions.
More questions? I did want to ask one.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll be.
No, go ahead, Len. Yeah.
So you mentioned grow the pie. So that means all new systems not adding batteries to existing homes. Did I catch that right?
I did say grow the pie. One of the changes to the program goals is we are prioritizing new systems. And the way we're doing that is a relatively higher incentive that is higher than an existing system incentive.
Okay, so exists, it still participate, but the incentive is in its rate.
Yes, exactly.
But, okay. And I'm just, I don't know if you want to share it tonight, but I'm interested in which batteries, and which companies are so far qualifying. And I don't want to promote any one company over the other, but can you share that with us?
We're still finalizing all of our agreements with our manufacturers. So September 30th is when we launch. We'll have all of our approved contractors available then, the approved batteries. Until then, we don't have anything to share.
And then the systems that were installed in the program last year, did you find that there were some issues with some of the installations, the inverters were fading or anything like that? Did you get into negative feedback with the installation?
We haven't heard any issues with the installations. We are only going to hear what our customers and participants want to tell us. So they may have an issue with their contractor and they're going to go to their contractor and get it resolved. So I can't say that all 1,600 went off smoothly, but we didn't hear an issue with the installations. Some of the battery configurations, and this is a pilot for a reason. And this is, Matthew mentioned innovation. We were trying to do something that hadn't been done before. So definitely had a lot of learning, had a lot of conversations with customers about why isn't it doing this and why isn't it doing that. And so there's a lot of learnings there. As far as like equipment failure, that wasn't something we really spent a lot of time on.
And I think just so the community meeting and education on this program, you're planning to do. Are you going to a city council meeting, or are you just going to schedule something that is for some community meeting where you announce it, advertise it, or?
Yeah, I feel like I won't do it total justice, and I think it's probably a good reminder for us to bring back up an item that just focuses on the marketing communications strategy for SBS. But I'll just say it's beyond just going to city council meetings. I mentioned customer workshops. Those will be specifically workshops where we're working with potentially interested residents, and we're talking with them about their usage, about the benefits of solar, about really whether it makes sense to go down that path. So kind of a conversation that they would almost have with a contractor, but we're trying to be that trusted source for them. And so those workshops are scheduled for Q4, or I should say they're penciled for Q4. We don't have any of them scheduled yet, but the intent,
Sorry, Q4.
sorry, for the fourth quarter of this calendar year.
Oh,
Yeah. But I think it would be worthwhile once we launch to come back and provide a more holistic update on specifically on our marketing communication plans.
I would love to interact with the staff on when you get started.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but we'll be looking at the CSD to help for promotion for sure of the customer workshops.
Thank you.
More questions on the contractors. First, I recall in the pilot program, there were a handful of contractors who had more aggressive marketing and thus more customers. And I'm wondering if there's any limit on any individual contractor in terms of the amount of business that will be allowed.
Yes, we had I don't know that I would necessarily characterize anything as aggressive, but there are some bigger firms out there that took they had a larger percentage of the applications. As with the pilot for the program, we have and this cap is based on each step. There's a 25% cap. So no one contractor can take more than 25% of the megawatt hours. So for that step, so we're 30 megawatt hours for this. So that's the 7.5. So no one contractor is going to get put out 7.5 megawatt hours of batteries through the program. We did add an exception to that for this, and that is if a contractor hits that 25% cap, they are able to continue to submit applications for CareFair customers. So that was a provision we added, but we still have that cap to kind of make sure that we are meeting that goal of serving the full community, not just a handful of contractors.
Great, okay. And will there be a way to going forward to evaluate some of the contractors in terms of the way they market the program to the customers? I'm just, when you're dealing with so many different contractors, there's always the concern that there's one or two bad apples in the crowd and they might be misleading customers about what the benefits of the program are or what it's going to cost actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, we'll be evaluating contractors, but we are going to do a lot more proactive engagement and provide them more resources. And I think that is based on the logic that if we provide the contractors with copy and with language they can put right into their outreach, that hopefully that'll be accurate. And with the pilot, we definitely did our training. We definitely engaged with some of the bigger ones, but like I mentioned, we did not have this hands-on approach. And I think we learned a lot about some of the things you're talking about, misinformation, and that came back to us in the form of customers saying, what do you mean there's a 50% discharge requirement? So can't say that we're going to be evaluating them. That has a very specific meaning in my head, but I think we'll be more actively working with contractors. And I mentioned Jill Monroe and her team. She'll be much more engaged in the program. She oversees the agency's strategic communications and marketing, and she has a team, and she's been personally engaged in the relaunch of the program. And so I think we'll see a lot more just kind of across board engagement, not only with customers, like I mentioned, but with the contractors as well.
Thank you. Oh, very exciting. Thanks for your presentation and good questions, everyone. And really looking forward to the launch of this 5-year program. And thank you.
You're welcome. You're stuck with me for the next item. I'm going to, if there's any questions.
This is a receive and file item and no further action is needed. So we get to move on to item 8, revisions to the existing net energy metering tariff program. Yeah, and to the existing net billing tariff, NBT, and the new net billing tariff aggregation, and new net billing tariff virtual. And I'll turn it over to Colin Santilli, Senior Director of Programs.
Thank you. Right. So just as a bit of background, we've been talking a lot about solar storage. We have 2 rates, and this item is about updating some rates and adopting new rates. We'll be bringing this to the board in September for their approval. So we wanted to, of course, bring it to you as well. For those of you who aren't familiar, we've had our NEM rate since 2020, since back in the very, very, very beginning of Community Power. There have been revisions several times since then. I mentioned net billing tariff was adopted in October of 2023. We are making a couple, what I would consider kind of adjustments that are billing mechanics adjustments to those 2 rates today. Kind of cover them at a high level. So for the NEM revisions, we're going to improve the functionality of the NEM balance credit refund, as well as standardize some of the language and definitions across 4 schedules. And I think clarify the ineligibility of fuel cells as well for certain incentives. The net billing tariff revisions include, I would say, kind of more billing mechanics language, clarifying and aligning the mechanics with the actual implementation. We also need to separate out the NBT virtual and NBT aggregation into their own schedule, which is currently not how it's structured. So those are, I would say, kind of cleanup tariffs that are before you today. These are 2 new tariffs. This is a net billing tariff virtual and net billing tariff aggregation called NBTV and NBTA affectionately. These were approved by SDG&E in September for virtual and in March for virtual. So our tariffs, similar to NEM and NBT, our tariffs mirror a lot of the structure of SDG&E's tariffs in this case as well. We do have a generation adder for NBT that we did not apply to NBTV and NBTA. We want to gather more data on the impact of that generation adder that the board adopted in October 2023 and kind of try to further understand how and if a generation adder would be valuable for NBTA and NBTV customers. Like I said, I'm going to phone my friend Lucas if we have questions, but that concludes the presentation.
Okay, so Lucas is available. Oh, there he is. Right. Thank you. Mari, do we have any public comment on this item?
Oh, Mr. Chair.
I'll now turn it over to CAC members for questions or comments. I guess I would have one question is, can you explain exactly what these new programs, these were initiated by SDG&E and we're following their lead on this, basically?
Sir. Good evening, Chair and members of the Community Advisory Committee. My name is Lucas Uto. I'm the Senior Director of Data Analytics and Customer Operations. Well, I'm glad to take that question. Yes, so the simple answer is yes. We even taking a step back in the net metering perspective, we do actually have the virtual and the aggregation carve outs. And obviously, as the members of the CSC know, the commission moved to the new construct of net billing and or also known as solar billing plan. And one of the biggest inherent differences between net energy metering NEM and net billing tariff NBT/solar billing is in terms of how the excess generation is valued, right? In the net energy metering construct, it's valued at retail value, otherwise applicable schedule. Whereas with the net billing tariff, there is no, first of all, the excess generation is valued at what is known as the avoided cost calculator per hour, and there is no netting. Whereas with net, you can net, down to the 15-minute or hourly level. And the net billing virtual tariff and the net billing aggregation tariffs that Colin just presented, there are essentially an offshoot of that transition from net energy metering to the net billing tariff construct, and specifically as it relates to virtual and aggregation setups. So yes, the answer is SDG&E through the CPUC action, right, mandated that they carve out the virtual and aggregation versions of the net billing tariff, in other words. And specifically, I want to make this point perhaps abundantly clear, in the existing construct or tariffs that SDG&E has, there really isn't a standalone net billing tariff aggregation. It's actually embedded in their broader net billing tariff. Whereas for the virtual option, there is a carve out that they filed last month. So I just wanted to make that distinction clear. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes. Luis.
This is still something I'm learning about. So apologies if the question is not as relevant or maybe doesn't make as much sense. But as I'm looking at this, is the NBT aggregation, is there any possibility that that has an impact on thinking like HOAs, townhomes, shared structures that might be interested in procuring solar panels as a group purchase? Does this impact that viability in any way?
Not quite, but that's a very good question. So I think in terms of the housing, right, generally, I think that falls more under the net billing virtual construct as opposed to the net billing tariff aggregation construct. And the reason why I say that is the virtual option is specifically geared towards property owners that have an on-site generation facility and they want their tenants to get the benefit of that generation, right? So then the way that it works is the owner says, okay, I have 10, 30 tenants, and we're going to allocate the credits that are emanating from the generating facility such that the tenants get the benefit, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that the tenants are each installing solar and or generating facilities. Just the owner is saying, yep, I want to participate. I want to lower my tenants' bills. So then, depending on your load aggregation of the tenants, each tenant is going to get a specific percentage of the resulting credit. Whereas with the aggregation setups, generally those benefit just one single customer who has eligible meters either within the exact same premise and or somewhere close by. They call it either adjacent and or contiguous property. And there's like a definition of that too. And that particular singular customer is able to aggregate, right? They have an on-site generation facility and they can aggregate the load across all the eligible meters to get the benefit of that on-site generation.
Thank you so much. That really clarified.
Any other questions? Okay, this is the receive and file item and no further action is needed. Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
And Carl. All right, that brings us to our standing items, discussion of potential agenda items for Board of Directors meetings. The CAC member comments. As a reminder, the CAC may suggest agenda items for a Board of Directors meeting agenda by communicating with the CAC chair, that's me, and designated community power staff before and or after a regular CAC meeting. If suggested at this time, there shall be no discussion or action by the CAC unless the item has been included on the CAC agenda. Do any of our CAC members have recommendations on potential items for our Board of Directors? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, I do, and it's kind of a complicated one. There are two proposed new power lakes coming into California. One's called the Ironwood Power Lake, sponsored by Horizon. It's an 87-mile power lake from Arizona over to California. And just in the last few weeks, SDG&E has announced the Golden Pacific Power Lake, which will also transmit energy from east of here, presumably Arizona and elsewhere, into California. So if somebody's ready to write these down, here's the questions that I'd like the board to ponder. The first is, do we support this? Is this something that San Diego Community Power is on board with? What kind of energy is this? Is this clean energy that we can tap into as a potential source? Or is it nuclear or coal or oil fired energy? What effect do these new power lakes have on our power mix and procurement here at San Diego Community Power? And what is the nexus between these two power lakes? I've been trying to figure this out. Are they redundant, or does one feed the other? Or are they competitive? And the notion of the environmental impacts of these, both in terms of where this power is procured and what is the effect of building giant new power lines across, potentially, I think that this is particularly true of the Golden Pacific one, Anza Borrego Desert State Park, and other sensitive land in the mountains to our east. So I realize that's kind of a mouthful, but I've been trying to figure out what's going on with these two power links and what ramifications that might have for California and certainly for San Diego Community Power. So I think that's a germane topic for the staff and board to address.
Okay, thank you for your recommendations. Well, any other suggestions, recommendations? Okay, seeing no further, let's move on to committee member announcements. Peter.
Yeah, I have one. It's not directly germane to San Diego Community Power, but yesterday, after a 7-year fight by Sierra Club and residents of Rancho San Diego and Spring Valley, the Board of Supervisors voted down the Cottonwood Sand Mine by a vote of 5-0. This is a fight I've been involved in literally weekly for 7 years. I've helped the community raise $65,000 to pay for lawyers should it have been necessary. Had the board been so unwise as to approve this environmentally destructive and community damaging project, but it's gone. We got all 5 votes yesterday at the Board of Supervisors, and I feel a little bit unburdened, at least by that fight today.
Wonderful. Other announcements? Larry?
Just, and you've probably heard of this, but the tax credits for EVs versus tax credit for solar projects. For EVs, those are expiring the end of September. However, there was a new, IRS, if you have a contract and you put a down payment of money to get an EV, and you don't get it before September, but you've already contracted, you signed the contract to get it, and you're gonna get it later, you can still get that federal tax credit.
Is that true for leases and purchases?
So if you're gonna do a lease now, you're gonna, I believe it's gonna be applied. I don't have 100% answer to that, anyway, it does, it's not drop dead end of September if you actually implement it. Maybe the car you wanted is not available, but you enter into a contract with the dealer, then it can be allowed to get the credit when you receive it later after September 3rd. Just have it right.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yes. Oh, yes, Tara, please.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to give a reminder that October 4th is the Workforce Development Clean Energy Workshop at Olive Gardens and Learning Center. I will send CEO an email to send out to all the CAC members, but it's a workshop that's targeting young adults, 18 to 25, but it's open to the public. If you know anyone who has questions about how electricity works, San Diego Community Power, how community choice energy works, or interested in getting into a job in the clean energy space, it's a great opportunity to. San Diego Community Power will be there. They'll also be speaking, and it's open to the public, and hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Tara. All right, anyone else last chance for this meeting at least? Okay, well, I had a couple of quick things. One, as it was communicated to this body last week, our member Ileana Sandoval has resigned from her role as representing Imperial Beach, and we wish her the best. And we'll be looking for someone to step up into that vacant slot. And then as chair, I will be providing the CAC quarterly report at our next board of directors meeting on September 25th. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. I appreciate everyone's participation today. We're adjourned until our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 9th, 5:30 p.m. here at the Port of San Diego. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the staff for sitting through the whole meeting.